we go. And before we start, when we do talks of Torah usually, because we're getting into, even whether we know it or not, we're getting into some spiritual places and states, and so we are going to like navigate into the unknown. So we hope to be guided. So just tuning in, making sure that we're in the right state of mind, calm, and asking for help so we can be guided to say the truth and to say things that are going to touch and give each and every one of us what we need to hear or what we need to say. Also, because it's a very special place, we have the custom, if we want to call in for a yard site, somebody who's like anniversary of the death, or if we want to ask for speedy recovery, somebody needs healing, it's something that we do. I've been asked to bring to do the class Leilui Nishmat Moshe ben Israel, Zichrono Livracha. And if you have anybody else in mind that you want to share, or you want to keep it for yourself in your heart, which is a good moment to just bring in whoever we want to bring. It could be healing, it could be the outside.
Yeah, I want to say a refuah shlema to my aunt who's not doing great.
What's her name?
Do you want to say her name?
Hannah Batsal.
Refuah shlema, Hannah Bat Sol. And refuah shlema also for my aunt Zaira Bat Baya, and from a friend Yosef Ben Abraham.
And refuah shlema for Shirel Aliza Batsima.
Perfect. Refuah shlema Shirel Aliza Bat Sima.
Refuah shlema to Chayarena Bat Miriam Ruth and
Chayarena
Yididia Ben
Bat
Bat Rivka.
Miriam Bat Rivka.
Yididia Ben Bat Rivka.
Your message. Can you talk?
What?
It was iPhone talking on its own.
Oh, perfect. Okay, sorry. Okay, perfect. So then we can keep in mind and our heart all our loved ones that are with us, and they're gonna help us get into this space. Also, really thank you to every one of you for helping making that happen. Especially Estelle, who made the Zoom call and all of that. But all of you, I know I don't need to get into details. Each and every one of you. Really, and it helps me a lot, just so you know. I'm navigating in the unknown, and what I've been thinking about, I see each of us as like a star that is shining, and when we work on our own light, when we are the star that we are, it allows others to look around and find their ways, and together we are kind of like a constellation of stars, and so that's beautiful. And so it helps me, and I know it helps each and every one of us to be able to find our ways sometimes when we need to find it. So with that being said, I want to talk about the parasha of this week. Okay, and so I didn't do a really good presentation, but I have a few verses. So hopefully, with the talk, it's gonna make sense. Before I start, I want to give a background so we are all in the same place. I don't assume who knows what, but the Torah that we're talking about are composed of 5 books. The Torah is composed of 5 books. The Torah has been written by Moses. He connected and he downloaded the Torah as we know it. What he gave us is divided into 5 books. We have the book of Bereshit, Genesis. We have the book of Shemot, Exodus. We have the book of Vayakhel, Leviticus, the book of Bamidbar, the Numbers, and the book of Devarim, Leviticus. Now these 5 books, each of them is divided into different parts. The first one, Bereshit, is divided in 12, Shemot in 11, then we have 10, 11, and 10. So each of the book has this little divide that we call the parasha. And each week we are reading one of these, what we call parasha. little division. And at the end, when we do the cycle week after week, at the end of the year, it happened that we have read the whole Torah. So that's why we're dividing it that way. So we make sure that within a cycle a year from Rosh, not really exactly Rosh Hashanah, but from after the holidays of Tishrei, which is Simchat Torah, to Simchat Torah, we have done the whole book of the Torah, the 5 books of the Torah. So every year we read and read. So every week we have a portion that is called a parasha, and it's very useful to guide discussion. When we want to talk about the Torah, it's so vast, we have an opportunity to focus on a week on the parasha portion that is relevant for that week. And that parasha portion, we are reading it usually in the synagogues. That's why when we get out the Torah, we read a portion, that's why we read one of the 50 plus portions of the Torah. Now this week portion is called Vayakhel Pekudei. It's actually 2 portions. So sometimes, because the year calendar change and it all switch a little bit, without getting into that, but sometimes we read 2 parasha in 1 week. So this parasha portion is called Vayakhel Pekudei, and it talks about the construction of the temple. Before I get into that, to continue on the background so we are all on the same page, the first book of Bereshit, Genesis, is telling the story from the creation of the world up to the moment that the sons of Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, are getting into Egypt. So that's the story that is covered on the book of Bereshit. We go through creation of the world, Noah and the flood, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and the 12 tribes getting into Egypt. After that book, start the book of Shemot, and that's the book within that the parasha is into this week. The book of Shemot starts with the account of the people of Israel growing into Egypt, becoming a nation, and starting to become slave in Egypt. And from there, Moses, the persona of Moses that starts to show up, and is going to take the people of Israel out of Egypt. So they go out of Egypt. On the way out of Egypt towards Israel, they stay in the desert for like 40 years. And in that desert, a lot of things are happening. At the formation of the people. We get to the Mount Sinai, we receive the Torah. We do the golden calf, which is like after we receive the first tablet of the Torah, we do like an idol to worship it, because we don't get into the details right now. Then we have a second set of tablets, a second set of commandments. These 10 commandments that as we know them today, we just know the second set. We don't know what was in the first ones. They were destroyed after the golden calf. So that happens in the desert. While being in the desert as well, Moses is downloading, connecting to God and downloading the old Torah. And slowly, day after day, week after week, I don't know exactly the time length, the Torah is transmitted, written, and spoken to the people of Israel. And one of the aspect of what needed to be done in the desert that comes from the Torah is to build a temple for God. And the parasha of today, of this Shabbat, of this week, Vayakhel and Pekudei, are 2 parashiyot that are finishing the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. So the following week we're going to start Vayikra. And they are focusing on the building of the temple. Okay, so far I hope it's clear for the background. I keep going, and then we can, if you have questions, we can go back to a discussion and question a little bit later. But that's the background. That's where we are. If you want to have a picture, we have about 600,000, a little more, families that has become the people of Israel, who are camping in the desert. So it's about, I don't know, maybe 2 million people. So it's a huge, some of us know Burning Man. It's 80,000 people. We're talking about 2 million people. It's a huge thing, in the desert. And this week, Moses is gathering everybody. So it's pretty special when he does something like that. So it means that the 2 million people are going to receive some information from Moses. By the way, I have a question that I didn't find an answer yet, but I'm going to keep looking. Is how is it possible that Moses gathered 2 million people and talked to all of them? I don't know. Like today we understand it with like a technological means, but back then, I don't know. Maybe there are technology that we don't know about. Maybe they
Mood la
figure out
classes, I
something.
think.
What?
He took mood la classes, I think.
Yeah, on Zoom. We did on Zoom.
Yeah.
How to address 2
Maybe
million people back
they were
then?
in this maybe they were in this beautiful like natural environment where the sound echo.
Echo. Yeah, it's possible in the desert. Yeah.
I'm with Nelly on that one.
It's yeah. It's possible, but it's 2 million people. It's crazy. But so anyway, that's just a parenthesis that when I was picturing the scene, the question come up like how did that technically happen? It's just a technical question. But anyway, so he gathers everybody Vayakhel, which means he gathered. He brings everybody together, and he's gonna tell them something. And so this is the 3 verses that I quoted here that are how the parasha started. So if I do it in English, let's say Moses then convoked the whole Israelite community and said to them, "These are the things that the Lord has commanded you to do. On 6 days work may be done, but on the 7th day you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest. Holy to the Lord, whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. You shall kindle no fire throughout your settlements on the Sabbath day." So the question, there's many questions. We know that these 2 parashiyot are going to talk about the building of the temple. Now he gathers everybody and he's going to start to tell them what to do. Why does it start by telling them that they're going to work for 6 days and stop during Shabbat? It's an odd choice to start the account of the building of the temple by Shabbat. So that's one question that the commentaries are bringing out. Is like, what do we learn from that? Obviously, there is something that we learn from that. And there are some other questions that we learn. In the account, why does he start to say, like, 6 days, work will be done? It's a strange way to word it. You know, what is work will be done? You should say 6 days you're going to work, you know. Work is not going to be done if you don't do it. So it's a strange way to talk about that, and it's a strange way to introduce Shabbat. Why choosing that formulation? Another question that we can ask is also why, out of like everything that we cannot do on Shabbat, why do we choose to talk about Esh, the fire? You know, you have, and I'm going to get into that. You have 39 archetypes of activity that cannot be done on Shabbat. Why do you choose the fire? And another question, which to me is the most important, is how all of this can be relevant to us today. Because today we have no temple, and Shabbat might not exactly be the Shabbat that it used to be. We have modern technology and everything. So how everything is relevant for us today? Because one thing that when we learn the Torah, that everything that is written needs to be considered, that the way that we approach it, as relevant for us today. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. The truth that is written in the Torah is like eternal. So it's true on every generation and every time, all the time. So if you find something that talks about the temple, that today we have no temple, you have to find a way to make it connected to you today. Otherwise, it's just like talk. It's just like a story that has no meaning for us. So these are like the overall question that I'm going to try to develop and to bring an idea from that. So first, on a kind of like a technical side, again, kind of like background for people who, like, you know, Shabbat, what is Shabbat? It's probably the big question that I'm going to answer in this discussion is what is Shabbat? Or at least, in which way can we connect to Shabbat? You know, which meaning can we give to Shabbat based on that? Doesn't mean that I'm going to define Shabbat, but I'm going to give an angle that hopefully will help us, understand better, experience better the concept and the experience of Shabbat. So in a technical way, Shabbat is defined by 39 archetypes of activities that we're not supposed to do. We say we cannot work, but the work that we are talking about, we cannot light fire, we cannot transport from a place to another. We have 39. I don't think I know them all, but just an example. And these 39 archetypes of work that cannot be done on Shabbat they come from the 39 archetype activities that we were asked to do to build and to serve the temple. So Shabbat is not defined as something that is here. It is defined as something that it is not. So in order to define Shabbat, they tell us all of the work that was done to build the temple, and they tell us Shabbat, you cannot do any of that. And so one of the answers of the first question, why do we start the account of building the temple with the warning or these verses about Shabbat, is to teach us from that we define Shabbat from what was done in the temple. And one of the commentaries here that I brought goes even further to notice that if you count the number of words in these 3 verses, which is a chapter by itself, that talk about Shabbat before we start talking about the temple, you'll find 39, except for the word Shabbat. With Shabbat, it's 40, but because it's Shabbat, it goes to like explanation. We don't need to get into that, but he finds 49. And more than that, he's doing like a play on words, on another words, the word la'asot, which is to make, and la'asot is the same letters as lamed and tesha, which is 39. So he's playing on words to give us that idea that from that passage, these verses in the Torah, we learn what not to do during Shabbat. And so at first, one thing that already is pretty interesting, and we are sitting to the technical part, and we're going to get into a way that we can relate to more in a little bit. But even at that level, it's already very interesting to see this concept of understanding something by the contrary. It's kind of like a level of consciousness that the world is in and that we are in this world. Like we understand light, or we can see light thanks to darkness, basically. So this concept, we can find it right here already. The way to understand Shabbat is by telling us what not to do, not by telling us what to do. It's one of the ways to approach Shabbat, which is interesting. Now, how can we make that relevant to us? So there is a verse in the parasha Teruma that says, "Ve'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham," meaning, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. So it's the first time that they are talking about the temple that needs to be built, and they say in the Torah, "Make me a sanctuary and I may dwell among them." So everybody asks the question, like, that doesn't make any sense. Why do you ask me? Why do you ask to build a house so you can basically not be in the house, but you can be outside of it? They say, "And I may dwell among them." And that's a very strange formulation. And from that, most of the commentaries are saying basically what happens is by the act of building the temple, by the sacrifice, by the work that you're going to do, you're going to create within you a space that are going to awaken your spirituality. And so by putting effort into creating a house, a temple for God, basically what's happening, it's something you didn't even expect, but you are becoming the temple. And that comes from that verse of the Torah. And that gives us a way to understand the work of the temple, the account of the temple work in the Torah, in a different manner. So now, thanks to that, we can say, or we can understand, we can relate to the work of the temple as a work that is toward ourselves. So when we talk about working, doing this and that for the temple, we're basically talking about working on ourselves so we can open up a space so we can connect to our own spirituality. And so with that in mind, with that way of reading, we can understand some things a little different. The first verse is the three that I've quoted. Here I brought the third one. They say, you shall kindle no fire throughout your settlement on the Sabbath day. So if we take that example, what would mean to kindle fire in terms of like the personal work on, or the personal temple that we represent. And so then we can start to think, what does fire represent? So one of the things that people are saying a lot, fire usually represents passion. With passion, you can have two sides of it. You can have zeal, you can be passionate and do things really fast, or you can also have anger. Whether it's like zeal or anger, the attribute of passion should not happen on Shabbat. So, and that's why why they put the fire to say, even though you're going to do some holy work, you're going to work on building the temple, and you're probably going to have a lot of zeal, a lot of passion coming up, because you're doing something so holy, so sacred. So you may think, when I'm in that passion state, there is nothing that should stop me. I'm working to create a temple for God. I should not stop. They tell you, no. On Shabbat, you have to stop. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that your passion is a zeal to create something positive. You stop on Shabbat. Obviously, if that passion is transformed into anger, you stop on Shabbat. So in some ways, this idea of not kindling fire on Shabbat, so there is the actual fire, but there is also the internal fire. So when if you want to raise to a consciousness, if I may use these words, a consciousness of Shabbat, if you want to get into that Shabbat space, you have to control your passions. You have to get into the Shabbat space where the emotion, the passion within you are not burning you. Because you cannot kindle fire on Shabbat. So on Shabbat, relax. On Shabbat, get detached from your passion. But the way to learn how to do that, you have during the week. That's why they start by telling us what to do during the week. During the week, you have to know passion. If you don't know passion, it's not very smart or difficult to to just not feel it. They don't tell you don't feel the passion. You have to know what passion is. You have to feel the emotions. During the week, you have to use them to build something. So then, during Shabbat, you can disconnect from it and you can enjoy that space. And we're going to get into that a little deeper. This is a very important concept. And just another example. The word, it's not an example, it's like another way to interpret in our modern time this talk about fire. The word fire in Hebrew is called esh. Esh is aleph shin. The words in Hebrew for a man and a woman is isha and ish. Now, it's a man and a woman that are, when we talk about ish or isha, it's a person. So it's somebody there is different levels of addressing people. Adam is humans, the whole humanity. Ish is a person. Ish or isha, so it means that within this humanity, you are you. You have a person with a personality. That's why it's called person, I guess. With your psychology, with your emotions. And that's Ish and Isha. No, the basic components of Ish and Isha is Esh. Esh is the fire. So what creates a person? A person is like the turmoil inside, the emotion, the thoughts, the psychology. That the Esh that creates a person. But on top of the Esh, you have two other things. For the Ish, for the male, you have the Yud, and for the Isha, you have the Yud and the He. The Yud and the He are letters that are extremely symbolic. When we learn, there are letters that are connected to the divine. Yud is God in his male form. He is God in his female form. So a fire combined with God, you got a person. A fire combined with God with the masculine and the feminine, you get a female person, you get a Isha. On Shabbat though, you need to not light the Esh. You need to leave space. The Ish and Isha, the persons, the person that we are, with our emotion, with our ego, with our personalities and all of that, the component of Esh needs to be put on quiet on Shabbat. So can emerge from us the Yud and the Yah. So the godliness out of us. So that's another way that we can understand Shabbat based on that verse with no fire. It's not just only like don't light a fire, the internal fire, so you can shine godliness within you. You can connect to your spirituality. And when I talk, when I talk about these words, godliness, spirituality, all of that, I know it's very confusing sometimes. We all refer to that in a different ways, but let's not get too focused on the world. It doesn't matter. Let's just say that you connect to something that is a little different that you are. A space that is not the space of passion, the space of emotion, the space of thought. Something else. Something that is more balanced, that is more observing. That would be the space in which shine the Yud and the Yud. So that's the example on how to bring the ideas of the temple work and Shabbat to our day-to-day life. We can go on with you have 39 works, activities, so that would be fascinating. I didn't do that at all, but we could go on the 39 activities. I'm sure some people have done that and try to map what they represent in terms of emotional or psychological work or spiritual work. That would be fascinating to do. But just like the Esh is an example. Another, to keep talking about the Esh, the fire, in the 4 elements like water, fire, earth, and air, the fire is the element that transforms. Fire transforms rapidly from a state to another. And so by saying, do not light fire on Shabbat, they tell us, do not transform on Shabbat. Do not transform yourself on Shabbat. During the week, you do work, you transform, you move from a place to another. You work to becoming. We chase a higher level. We always become something else. We want to, and that's the way it should be. The first 6 days of the week, the work needs to be done. But in order for the work to be complete, you need that 7th day, that Shabbat day, where you don't do the work, so you can just be who you became. So basically, do not kindle fire also means do not try to transform who you are on Shabbat. That is the work of the 6 days of the week. That's not for Shabbat. On the 6th day, you work hard, you want to, at every level, you want to make money, you want to do this, you want to do that. On spiritual level too, you want to go higher spiritually. On Shabbat, you don't. No matter where you are, even if you have zeal, you build the temple, you're doing holy work, you're achieving so much, you stop. Why is that? And we're going to get into that even deeper. It's fascinating, this idea. It's crazy, but it's
Can I give just a similar concept that can be easier to understand?
Yeah.
Before we get deeper into it, I have never heard this way, but I've heard it people say, when do you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor? You work hard. When do you stop and enjoy them? Because otherwise, you just continue to work hard and produce more fruits, but you never stop and eat those fruits. This is the present. This is the gift of Shabbat. You stop and you eat those fruits. So that could be an easy way to. Before we get deeper.
No, absolutely, and it's a great comparison because you eat, and it's a great also bridge to the next thing, because by eating is something that is very a base of Shabbat, and there is a reason why it's eating. But the thing is that this idea also, like God created the worlds during 6 days and he rested the 7th day. It's the idea that when you build something for someone else, so God for humans, he created a world, or humans create a temple for God, or whatever it is, you create something for somebody else, or you work on yourself for your future self. In order for that the future host of what you're building to be able to live, to exist, you need to stop and remove yourself. It's like the world could not host humans if God was still building it. God had to remove himself in order for us and for life to happen. The same way when we build the temple, we have to stop. The same way for ourselves, what you said, for the fruits and everything, we have to stop so things can happen, so things can just be. And it's like an idea of like leveling up. Like in the spiritual realm, you will try to become something and then you set, you be, you enjoy who you are, so then you can go and become the next thing. Now, to get a little deeper into that concept, I'll bring something from a parasha before the one of this week that is called Kitisa. And the parasha starts and says, Kitisa et rosh bnei Israel, meaning when you take a census of the Israelites. Whatever, it's the real, I think the proper translation would be a head count. So Kitisa et rosh bnei Israel, you do a head count, you're going to count the people of Israel. There is a commentary who says, if you look, they like to look at the verses in many different ways to extract more meaning. He says, if you look at the word kitisa, kitisa has also a different meaning, means to elevate. Laset is to elevate or to go beyond. So kitisa, when you go beyond, et rosh, if you elevate rosh. So he says here, basically what you do is that you take the word rosh, which has 3 letters, resh, aleph, shin, and you bring them to the next level. Rosh, I got it here. It's a long one. Rosh here. Resh becomes shin. Aleph become bet. Shin become tav. So it's the alphabet, right? Aleph, bet, gimel, aleph, the alphabet. You elevate, kitisa. When you elevate, when you get to the next level, et rosh, the word rosh. So each letter you bring it to the next one. Resh, the next after that is shin. After aleph you get bet. After shin you get tav. You get Shabbat. So he tells us, when you go beyond Rosh, which is the head, you get Shabbat. Now, to bring things together, another way to look at, when you look at this verse right there, Kitisa, and you look at the translation in Aramaic by the Targum Onkelos, and we do Aramaic because translation is always an explanation. The verse, the text is the text. When you translate it, you put meaning in it. So, but this guy, Onkelos, who was a convert, did an amazing work, and he's the reference to understand the Torah. But everybody is based on him, Rashi and everything, to understand, one way to understand the Torah. The way it translates in Aramaic, this first verse, he said, Are tekabel yat chushban bnei Israel. So the word rosh, head, he's translating it as chushban. Chushban means count. But it also means something else. In Hebrew and Aramaic, chashev, lachshov is to think. So the count is also to think. So if we bring things together, what we have is that Kitisa et rosh bnei Israel, when you're going to count the head, you can interpret it as when you're going to go beyond the thoughts, when you're going to go beyond the numbers. When you're doing that, basically, you are accessing Shabbat. So another way to look at Shabbat is to get into a space, to get into a state of consciousness that is beyond thoughts, that is beyond numbers. Now, what does that mean, beyond the meditative aspect of that? What does that really mean? When you count something, 1, 2, 3, that means that there is no oneness. If there is one, you cannot count. If you connect to the state of ultimate oneness, you cannot count. Thinking is the same. When you think about something, it means that there is you, there is the object of your thoughts, and even the thought itself. It's 3. When in a state of oneness, there is no thought. You cannot think, because thinking means multiplicity. You cannot count, because counting means multiplicity. So in a state of Shabbat, what he says here is to reach a consciousness of oneness. a consciousness that everything is one. Now, it's a concept that is very difficult to understand. We cannot really understand. But the best we can do is to get to the level of being one with who we became. So the idea of Shabbat is that during the week you work to ascend to a different level. There is you and there is the future you. It's multiple. It's separation. On Shabbat, you let it be. So you are integrating. You are this future you that you worked on becoming. And there is no longer the past you and the future you. There is just you. And you enjoy that state. So you've reached a level, to your level, of oneness. It's not the ultimate oneness. You still think about God and Torah, whatever. It's not the ultimate oneness. But it's a new level of oneness. You're a little bigger. You're a little more one than you used to be. Because during the week, you were there and you wanted to go there. This is two. On Shabbat, you know you're there. There is no longer nothing. Then another week starts. So you can go to the next level. And that's the concept and the idea of Shabbat. It's basically a spiritual practice that goes hand in hand with the week. It doesn't go by itself. It goes hand in hand in the week, so you can climb up the ladder of spiritual ascension, so you can always become something else and then be who you are. This idea can be extended. There is a source, Tikkun HaZohar, that talks about God and said, Ribon al-min de'at uchad vela mechushban. He talks about the ultimate oneness. Patach Eliyahu v'amar, Ribon al-min, master of the world, de'ant hu, that you are, chad, one, vela mechushban, and without chushban. It's again the same words. Chushban is count, but it's also thought. So the master of the world, to get to the level of ultimate oneness, it's again this idea of it is beyond thought. It is beyond numbering. It's something that we can, and then it continue. We cannot grasp that concept, but to our level we can get in. So to kind of like add another layer to that thing, to that idea. When we on Shabbat we ask for a day that is Kulo Shabbat, we said. And we want the world to get to a space, this consciousness of Shabbat. So basically what we are asking for is for the world to realize the oneness, that we are all just one. That we get into that consciousness, into that state of being of Shabbat, which is we are all one, there is no separation. We talk sometimes about the fact that what we see as separated is an illusion. It is an illusion, but it's still an illusion that we need to work on in order to get beyond it. Now, this movement, because I have to throw some love inside that stuff. So this movement of we have separation and then we get into oneness, that's a movement of love. Love is like you are separated and then you make one. That's a movement of love. So Shabbat is an aspect of teaching us how to spiritually understand that everything is one, and so basically it teaches about love. Now, when we get outside of this world, of this body, after we're 120, we're going to get to a space that there is no action possible. That we're going to get to a space that there is only oneness. In the space of there is only oneness, there is no becoming. You just are who you are, and you can reach that state here too sometimes. But we still have the opportunity to become. When you get to the place that you just are who you are, if you don't know how to just accept who you are and be happy with who you are, you'll be very miserable. And so they give us Shabbat so we can train ourselves to accept and be happy with who we are. So when we get there, we know the art of being happy with who we are, and we don't have to come back. Otherwise, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's like nothing is bad. We come back. That's why we're here. We need to learn again, apparently, all of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But we need to learn to be happy with who we are. We need to learn this practice of Shabbat. We need to learn to raise our consciousness. So when we're going to get to that place that there is no thoughts, or we're just part of everything, and we have a place in that space. We're happy with our place. And when we're happy with our place, that's it. We've made it. We achieved it. We can live eternally in like in a blissful state of just being who we are. If we're not happy with it, then we come back until we're happy. So Shabbat is here according to that idea, but they say it's me'ein olam haba. It's the source, or it's like the world to come, because it's here to teach us to be happy with who we are. That's the whole concept of Shabbat, which is, happy with who we are, happy to just be, finding that everything is one. It's also an aspect of love. And so that's what I think we can learn from to kind of like summarize everything and to finish it. What we learn from the account of the work of the temple that starts with Shabbat is that we are the temple. We have 6 weeks, we have this world to work on ourselves, to become and to be able to achieve a space where we are happy with who we are, for just who we are. And that's why these verses started with Shabbat, because the Shabbat, working hand in hand with the week, is our spiritual practice. This is our path to get to that level. Some people have yoga, some people have meditation, some people have, I don't know, whatever. We have also all of that, it's great, but we also have Shabbat. That's our practical guide, our practical spiritual guide to learn to just be and to be happy. Because the goal of this creation, the goal of everything is for us to be happy. Not just happy, but like a constant, like solid happiness that is just like kind of like floating, connecting to the source, and just enjoy being part of the source, wherever it is. So yeah, with that,
Can I share a question?
Yeah, for sure. Let's open up with questions, and wish that everybody can achieve this state of like, yeah.
First, it was super deep. Thank you so much. It was very beautiful. I think I'm wondering if you think the word who, like who we are, is the right one, because I feel like, if when I'm in that state of bliss, I'm content with what I am, because who is like I need to transform this who, and this who is very connected with the purpose that I have. So when I'm beyond the purpose, when I'm beyond the work and in the perfect world, and I don't have to create that, it's there already, I'm more content with what I am. And that's maybe something I can feel when I'm doing yoga. I'm feeling amazing to be in that body. Like I love, like, or when I do meditation, I'm that mind or that spirit. So it's more the what I am, or maybe the where I am. I'm feeling great in where I am in that. So I don't know. I'm wondering if you
No,
think
it's
who is.
yeah, it's good. I think it's all of it. I think
There's
I
still a
mean
who. You think there's still a who in the afterworld? Like what is who I am in the afterworld?
Oh,
I
I see what
think
you're saying.
I think there is a who that is composed with a unique, kind of like the image, the imprint that a particular soul and a particular body made at this period of time. That creates an image, and that is who you are. I don't know exactly. It's complex. I don't
So
know.
it's like an addition to the soul. Like your physical body, Nelly, your
Yeah.
experience in this lifetime, every cycle, every gilgul that a soul has in the world, that body's experience in that lifetime contributes to the, everlasting growth of that soul's identity.
Okay,
So
so
it
that
is what you
identity
are,
can
but it's
exist.
also who you are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It means that identity exists independently from the work that identity can do. I mean, like,
Yeah, for sure. It's
that's
a contributing factor, of course. It's beautiful. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Nat, I wanted to also, something that Nelly said earlier. She was saying how, like, during the week, we work, we do all of these things during the week, and I think the point was like that Shabbat, we enjoy, we stop doing those things, and we can breathe, and we enjoy it, and we can reap the fruits of our labor. Yeah. One point that I remember learning once upon a time is that if you take the 39 categories and you break them down, they very simply can be categorized into 3 topics: food, clothing, and shelter. And that's what we do during the week. You know, back in the day, before there was Trader Joe's and Safeway and everything, you know, we have to go, have to, slaughter a sheep
honest.
to get meat, and shear a sheep to make wool, and spin wool to make clothes, and pull from a tree. All of the things, every single one of the 39 can be categorized into one of those 3 things: food, food, clothing, and shelter. So on Shabbat, we really get to reap the fruits of our labor. I think it was a beautiful point.
Yeah, yeah. I never heard that, but that's cool. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's what we need, basically. Yeah, the basic needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think, yeah.
Oh, you want to respond to that? Go ahead, Matt.
No, but I wanted to add a little thing, to make it a little more practical, because I know it can be very abstract, all of these concepts. I think one of the way, to me, because we're all different, whatever we do on Shabbat, not Shabbat, the idea is how to connect with it to that space. Because you can do everything on Shabbat by the book, and then you still have zero Shabbat, You can, it's like sometimes people will be like, oh, I meditate 2 hours a day and 3 days a week, and you see in the behavior that they have nothing that embodies any type of like a meditative person, They just are a race on numbers, or they do 20 class of yoga per week, and so they do Instagram photos. It's like the action of what you do doesn't make it like meaningful and stuff like that. So I think one of the way that we can relate to that is really to just like, with ourselves and with others, I think when we think in a way that categorize people, like something very practical to extract from it, when we start to count, when we start to think about others in a way that is separating, on one day of the week, or even during the week, you can have Shabbat during the week, have once every 7 hours, whatever it is. Just try to disconnect from that thought. Just try to see the other person as just like, not even like, just like accept the person as a person. Don't think nothing about them. Just connect person to person. And I think it's a very practical way to implement this Shabbat consciousness without getting too abstract, in all these concepts, or too technical, or requiring to practice or whatever. Just something that we all do, like think about somebody, see how you're making one with that person, what connects you with that person rather than what separates you. And that's just what I wanted to add to make it more concrete.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an amazing concept to be thinking about. Like each week we have this ability to be like to slow down, to change our mindset from working mode to stillness, to like no passion, not trying to change and move up or move down or keep moving, but kind of being content with ourselves. But it's also interesting to think about how the sentence isn't saying that that's the state that we should be in all the time, right? And perhaps not to say that we want to be like, but it does seem to be like there's the balancing act there between, which is perhaps a little bit different than some religions, where the idea is to be in that euphoric state or nirvanic state all the time, 7 days a week, not 1 day a week. And I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around like how to behave. Like what type of behavior should I be doing for the other 6 days? And is there a flip of the personality? Is it also? I mean, it seems like we should be pursuing our passions for the 6 days a week, and have that fire, have wanting to be growing, wanting to be changing, and that could be like seeking more success, seeking more growth. I don't know. We could probably define it in a lot of different ways, but it's interesting to be thinking about the yin and the yang of that, or like the lightness and the darkness of that, because it seems like this shiur is very, and this topic is very much both.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. That's a great point. It's like the 6 days of the week teaches us how to Shabbat, and Shabbat teaches us how to 6 days of the week. If you don't know passion, if you don't work to build a temple, there is no Shabbat. You have to do the work on the 6 days in order to be in that space of Shabbat. Otherwise, you're just in a neutral space, you know. And yeah, when you talk about the difference with other religion, or at least the image that we have in some like religion or practices that invites you to just be sitting all day long and be in that state of being all the time, for us is very. It seems different. I don't know if it's very different, because I think this process is a natural process that even when you meditate, you get to that. Not in that way, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I think you're right. We have something unique here with Shabbat. That's for sure. But I think it's something that we cannot, that even people who are saying differently, they cannot avoid.
Yeah.
Like
And
the emotions. Yeah. Good. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think I've found myself in this situation where you haven't spent the week doing the things that you should be doing or that you want to be doing, and then when the time comes that Shabbat is coming, like you're scared of Shabbat, like you don't even want to go there. And so there really is a balance of like finding what you need to be doing during the week, so that when Shabbat comes, it is something that you're looking forward to and like you're excited about, and not something that is like stopping a cycle that you haven't been able to actually complete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
When you say you're scared to go there, you mean because you haven't finished your work and you want to finish it before you go into Shabbat?
Yeah, something like that. But like not just like actual work. Like so I definitely feel that some Shabbats come and I can't wait for Shabbat and I'm excited and it's awesome. And some Shabbats I'm like, oh, it's Shabbat already. Like I haven't seen the week pass by, and all the things I wanted to do, I didn't do them, and so yeah.
But I think it goes also the other way around. I think that we need Shabbat to actually grow. Like in the sense, like if we don't pause and like have a different pace, or we're not gonna make the week be as productive as it actually was. And like basically all of the work that we do on ourselves during the week and the work that we do just generally will only like sort of realize itself if we also pause and like think about it and understand what has happened and like sort of reflect on it in some way. So I think it's really, yeah, like what you were saying, like the yin and the yang, like I think it's really, you need one and the other. And I think like this work of pausing doesn't mean that you're not doing anything, because it's probably half of the work. Like you're probably doing half of the work by pausing and having a different pace.
Totally. That's like the integration part, that the part that you're, that
Yeah.
everything, the process, you remove yourself so the processes can happen. Otherwise, it's like a control thing, you know? Sometimes you think that things don't happen if you remove yourself. Internal work and external work, and then you remove yourself and you see that, oh, finally you can see the result of what you've done and it's happening, you know, without you involved. And that's where things are happening, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah. It's also interesting. I think we equate the 6 days to actual like jobs, right? Since you know we're all working, right? But it seems like there's also other types of work that's implied to be doing in terms of the person, or we're all temples, right? Our own temple, right?
absolutely.
I don't think the 6 days of the week are just for like pure, working for companies, to make money, right? I think there's probably also another aspect to the types of things that we could be doing during the week, in which we would still be like giving ourselves time to absorb that like knowledge and that growth that we've been putting into ourselves during the 6 days, right? And I don't know, Nat, do you have any thoughts on
I
that?
mean,
Like,
I yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's like to the I think whatever you work on is going to be your Shabbat. So if you work on just like business and all of that, then your Shabbat is going to be no very much different than a vacation from everybody else. If you start to work on your emotions, for example, then your Shabbat is going to be working on your emotion. If you start to work on your thoughts, then it's like it's leveling up. So obviously, if you're, I think that I totally agree that the main work that we are talking about here is not like the actual physical work. It is also part of it, but it's just a little part. Depending on where we are spiritually speaking, that matches the work that you do. And on that, one thing that they were saying, the people who could even start to build the temple, where it says in the Torah, Chacham Lev, somebody who achieved the wisdom of the heart, which I think is meaning that you have a perfect control and not control, but detachment and observance and feeling of all your emotions without letting them making decisions for you. That's the wisdom of the heart. So we first need, so beyond the work in the companies and the work there are ways that we can work on ourselves too. You can work on your emotions by controlling your relationship with your colleagues or whatever, wherever we are. This is the cards that we have to work on ourselves. The ultimate work is to build our own temple, yourself. When you're gonna get there to the next level, when you just are, who are you gonna be? Gonna be, whatever. We work on defining ourselves. So it's very personal, and everybody has different. It's a journey. So wherever we are, that's where we are going to just observe and be. So to your point, I don't know if I make it more confusing or not, but to your point is I totally agree on that it is encompassing all of the type of work. Yeah. And what I think they have in mind, or at least what I have in mind, being especially in a situation that I don't work, is that we are talking about spiritual, emotional, psychological work. For me, at least, mostly.
Yeah, and we talked about that actually also in the past. Yeah.
But that work can be achieved within a company. I grew a lot when I was working with partners, and they trigger me, and they're like, okay, wow, I've dealt with a lot of my anger. At the end of the day, the tools that we have during the week are the relationships that we have. And the relationships could be family, work, partner, kids, friends. These are the tools that we have to grow. And so it doesn't matter what type of relationship. What matters is the relationship and what it does to you, and how you're using that how you work that relationship to grow. Mm-hmm. Relationship to others, relationship to things, relationship to work, to yourself, to your image, to your body. I don't know, to everything.
Thank you so much, Nat. This was really beautiful.
Yeah, super interesting. Really cool.
And you're like, yeah, I didn't really prep very much. Sorry. Yeah, that was like a full-on class.
Well, no, it's great. It was amazing. Thank you guys for making it happen. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. All right. I guess I'll see you. I'm going to come to LA on Friday, so I guess I'll see you on Shabbat.
Wow.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm planning to drive to LA.
Okay, that's great.
Come for dinner.
Come for dinner. We're hosting on Friday night.
Amazing. Yeah, Niels told me because I need to get a test, right?
It would be good.
I will get one. I don't care. I need to get one anyway for fun, so I'll just do one. Yeah, I don't mind. If it makes people feel safer, what?
Yeah. We have 3 guests staying with us. Sam's father, Adina, and Atid, and basically,
Oh, for sure then. Yeah. For sure. I didn't know Sam, your dad was here, but.
Well, sure. He got vaccinated, so he's not worried, but he's still, pretty. He's older, and so we definitely want to be careful overall for all of our guests.
Sure. Yeah. I'll make a test. I guess I need today. Yeah. All right, today.
Thank you so much, Nat. But we're so excited to have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to come.
And you're sleeping at Neil and Neil's?
I think yeah. I didn't finalize all of the stuff yet, but I think so. Yeah. I think they say yeah.
Okay.
They have a space.
Okay.
Yes, so
Worst case, maybe we can move